Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of The Rundown. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast behind enemy lines in California. But as we all know, I do not do this program by my lonesome.
No, I do my best to assist as I can. My name is Mike Poworski. I am your co-host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most.
With the mostest. The coastest with the mostest.
Coastest
How are we doing today, sir?
Not too shabby. Had a full day today, a full day of work and all sorts of great stuff. And then now it's great to close the day out here with the folks. Because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Where's it 5 o'clock? Right here, location Bravo. With
right
you
there.
In the rundown.
Yeah, who's enjoying 5 o'clock? That guy. Right there.
For those of you on the West Coast, see you in 3 hours when you catch up.
Yes, sir. Well, see, I am already prepping for a very, very nice Taco Tuesday dinner.
Oh, very nice.
I have a nice pork shoulder that is on the smoker. Yep. I will plan on slicing and dicing it up to make some pork street tacos tonight.
Slicing and dicing and pulverizing.
Oh yeah, it is going to be delicious.
It sounds good. It sounds delicious.
When I put in that, when I bother to cook, normally my cooking usually has to do with either the smoker or the grill. But when I do the whole shebangy bang, I don't do it halfway.
I just heard when I feel like letting people benefit from my food cooking skills. It's that's what I heard. That's what I heard. That's what I heard you say. When I feel letting people benefit from my food cooking skills, it's usually something pretty good.
Well, here's the thing, man. I don't cook a lot of things,
right?
But what I do cook, I cook well. How about that?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so no, definitely planning on definitely enjoying some tacos once again today on Taco Tuesday.
I've got the. I've always said I think I should be on that TV show Chopped because I'll come home and the family will say, "There's nothing to eat. There's nothing to make for dinner," and I'll go in and be like, "All right, well, what do we got here? We got some sauerkraut, mushrooms, pepper and cheese, and Italian sausage. Oh, I'm good. Let's get this done. Let's get the party started." It doesn't matter what's in the basket. I can make a meal out of it.
You can make a meal out of it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, folks, there's a lot of stuff in the news today, so we're going to go ahead and jump right to it. We're going to start with the Rittenhouse trial. Yeah, we talk a lot about this particular trial, but there was a bombshell yesterday. I really didn't want to get into it again today, but there was a bombshell yesterday. And it was a pretty big bombshell. Now imagine the prosecution. They've already put on what has to be one of the worst cases. I mean, if you wanted to make a My Cousin Vinny 2, where, Joe Pesci was actually Kyle Rittenhouse's cousin and attorney, and he was defending him, you could not put on a more comical case than what the prosecution has put on thus far. And as the coup de grace, right, as the big finale to their case, they have the individual who was the one of the three guys who got shot who actually lived through the experience. And Mike, I'm since I got a chance to do all of the the laying out of it, I'm gonna let you drop the bombshell because this is hilarious.
Yeah, listen. The Rittenhouse trial is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. They had the last man shot, the one that lived, who now we call Lefty, by the way. He was on the stand, and the prosecution had already used him as their star witness. So they were doing the cross examination by the defense, by Rittenhouse's defense counsel, and he ended his question. He looked like he had much more questioning to go, but when you get the answer you want that you didn't expect, when you get that ridiculous, it's kind of like when Tom Cruise's character goes, when he said, "Did you call that code red?" And he says no 10 times. Well, the first time Rittenhouse's prosecution asked the question, he got the answer he wanted. So he just stopped. He was like, "Well, I'm done. I don't have to go any further." The question was, and let me see if I can get it exactly right. He said, "It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, that he fired, right?" And he said, "That's correct." and at that point,
Dun, dun, dun.
Rittenhouse's attorney just stopped, and you could see him. He goes to the podium. He's like, "I'm pretty sure I'm done. I don't think there's anything else I have." And when you glance up at the prosecution and see their reaction, that's almost as funny. He just so here's Rittenhouse's defense attorney going through his notes, going, "No, that's it. I got the big score. I'm done. I went right from number 1 to number 10, just like that." And this prosecution's over there like, "We're done. We're beat. We're hammered. I can't believe my star witness just gave it up." You know, it was a pretty good moment. And watching it while watching all the legal analysts watch it. You know, because you like if you watch it on court TV or whatever, right, they've got the panel of legalists watching at the same time. And as soon as he said that's correct, the three of them that I was watching, they all went, "Oh, that's it, it's done, it's over."
Like they were watching an MMA or a Mike Tyson knockout, right?
Yep.
Except he punched himself in the face.
Exactly. Yeah. He knocked himself out. Whoa. Yep. Well, good old Lefty. At least he's good for something these days. So it was quite good, rewarding to watch. I'm still not sure if they're going to do the directed verdict. I think if they do the directed verdict and he wins it, folks, and that's once the prosecution's done laying on its case, the state can say he moves for a directed verdict because the state failed to meet the burden of proof for these charges, and the judge can dismiss it right there on the spot.
Right.
I don't know that they'll do that. They may let this trial go through. Well, they may want to get put him on the stand. I think there's clearly enough to do that, but I think for political reasons, for keeping people from rioting in the streets reasons, they may go through with the rest of the trial.
Well, yeah, and there, once again, we're hearing the big bombshell stuff. For all we know, there are small pieces of things that they're using to make their case that may or may not be enough that at the very least the judge would like to see the defense address or answer in their case. Again, all I will say is I don't follow many trials because I'm not going to sit and watch or listen to every single moment of every single trial. I am going to, look at what reporting comes out and the information and the data. And I haven't heard anything good about the prosecution come out of this case.
No. They prosecuted this case only to get people to stop rioting before,
right.
That's when they announced their charges and said, we're going to file charges. That was to calm the community down then. And I know, listen, right now that they're over at Rioter headquarters trying to figure out, who's making the signs and who's bringing the Molotov cocktails, because they're anticipating not this week, but the end of next week is when the trial should be done. So they're planning on then. So if they do the directed verdict now this week,
right,
Craig, they might catch them off guard. The rioters may not be able to riot. They'll be like, "But I had it on the schedule for next week. We didn't know you were going to end it this soon."
I'm still trying to figure out exactly how a case where a young white teenager shoots 3, white male attackers, who attacked him. How is that racial? How is that anti-blackness? I'm trying to figure this out.
Because this is how they'll say it. If this white kid had shot 3 black people, right? Then
what they'll say is if this had been a black kid who shot 3 white people.
Right, there you go. If it had been a black kid who shot 3 white people, he would have been guilty. But because he's white, clearly it's racist and you let him off because white people don't convict white people.
Well, I think I would say this. I think that that's hooey. But I guess if you're going to shoot somebody in self-defense, it really helps when you do it in front of a bunch of cameras.
Right.
If you follow the law and you do it in front of a bunch of cameras.
Yeah, including the FBI surveillance video.
Right. I'm just saying. I just know what's amazing to me is how the mainstream media is reporting on this. Like, all of this was like unknown until now. And Mike, I remember when it happened, there was tons of cell phone video that was out there that would lead you to the same exact conclusion that we have right now. And I even showed it to people who are not predisposed to supporting a Kyle Rittenhouse. And even they were like, yeah, he's got a pretty good case for self-defense.
This is it's almost the reverse of Dave Chappelle did it when he talked about Juicy Smouye, the actor Juicy Smouye. And he said that the LGBT community was very mad because black people didn't stand up and demand justice. And he said, well, that's because we knew he was clearly lying.
Right.
That's like this going on right now. It's like nobody's really mad because they all knew this was clearly self-defense.
Right.
This is really just, hey, we're going to go through the motions of this just so you get your you can have your news bites and whatever you want, but this kid's not guilty.
Well, in the end, I think that this is prosecutorial misconduct. This kid should not be having to go through all of this. This was clear and obvious. Right. Once again, this is all about the politics of it, not justice.
Right, and again, this is going to be because of this. Either the state attorney, district attorney, whatever it's called there, and their state attorney general. This has got nothing to do with the guy you see is sitting in the chair prosecuting this. Yes. He was told to go do this for political reasons.
I'm just wondering who he pissed off to get this assignment.
Well, sometimes you pick off the guy who can almost act it the best and make it look like a good effort. But evidently it wasn't Captain Facepalm here because he's blowing it. Yeah,
most definitely. All right, let's move on to our next story. The Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act, and we've talked about these sorts of laws before. We talked about this particular law before. The media is making a big deal because they have this law that basically says if a federal law violates the Second Amendment, our officers in this state of Missouri will not be allowed to enforce it. Otherwise, they will face penalties and fines up to $50,000. Well, now you have a few, and when I say a few, I mean a very few law enforcement officials who are saying that is preventing them from being able to enforce the law. Mike, you had one particular word when you shared the story with me that you pretty much summed up the entire story.
Yeah, lies is what this is. We have talked to you about this before when it was only in print media that this had garnered attention. But this weekend it was on 60 Minutes, and Nora O'Donnell was the one who had the story. And just to give you how they're portraying this here over on 60 Minutes. So again, a major network, right? It's a major network's news outlet. They say that the Second Amendment Preservation Act, this new law claims to invalidate all federal gun control laws and prohibits state and local cooperation with enforcement of those laws. Local law enforcement who infringe on the right to bear arms are subject to $50,000 penalty. And it's several members of law enforcement opposed the new gun legislation, and surprisingly, so do some gun enthusiasts. Well, that's all a complete lie, Craig. And I happen to have, I don't know, the internet here in front of me with the actual law and what it says. Under House Bill 85, any person or entity who knowingly deprives Missouri citizens of their right to bear arms as protected by state and federal constitutions, they forgot that part, will be liable for redress and monetary damages of $50,000. So what that means is we're not allowed to make new gun laws in violation of the Constitution of the state or the Constitution of the U.S. government. So that's it right there. It also says this bill prohibits state and local cooperation with federal officials that attempt to enforce any laws, rules, orders, or actions that violate the Second Amendment. Okay? It doesn't say anything about just any gun laws, because it doesn't say all gun laws are illegal. It does not say that. They go on to say, and let me give you the second part of this here, because I want to make sure you understand this. The law actually says in it, Craig, it shall not be a violation of this act to provide aid to federal officers who are in pursuit of a suspect when there is a demonstrable criminal nexus with another state or county and the suspect is not a citizen of this state and is not present in the state. It shall not be a violation of the act to hold to aid a federal prosecution for federal crimes involving weapons that have nexuses to other federal crimes and like drugs and things like that. So the law is very clear. All right.
Exactly. Well, you just, that right there, the part right there that you just read is what invalidates all of their arguments. The fact is that possession of a firearm in the midst of committing a felony is a felony. I mean, you're not constitutionally protected.
Correct.
Right? At that point, if I am robbing a bank and I have a gun, my Second Amendment right has now been forfeit. I'm now committing a federal.
Correct. It does not say the right to keep and bear arms while committing a felony.
Right.
It's the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Well,
except
here's
while
the thing.
committing a felony.
What we know is cops. Being a cop does not equal being a lawyer.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And we also know that as much as I support our brothers in blue, we also know that many of the people who set policies and run these departments want to make it as easy as possible for them to do their jobs. And in some cases, that means violating the rights of law-abiding citizens. Now, I'm not saying that the rank and file officers want to do that. I'm saying that the policymakers are the ones who don't care about your rights.
Yeah, and there's a couple of chiefs and sheriffs there. And you were talking, I think, 3 that I saw that are politicians is what they are. And they're Democrats and they're trying to run for higher office. They're being liberal, and they come out and they're lying the same way Deborah Norville, CBS, and 60 Minutes is.
Right.
And if they don't issue a retraction over this, you know that it's just another reason to throw everything away, as they say, as lies.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will also throw out there that in some cases you have police chiefs who that may or may not be their personal position, but guess what? A police chief is a bureaucrat, and they work for a city council, and that city council sets the policy, and they are obligated to then follow or implement that policy. Now, police chiefs that I know who are people of integrity, many of them would just simply resign and would not seek to implement those laws that they know are unconstitutional. But there are some folks who, they kind of want to keep their jobs, so they do. But once again, knowing that may or may not necessarily be their policy directly.
Now, listen, a sheriff who's been elected and wants to seek higher office, or he's a Democrat, he's going to come out and say this. A police chief who's been appointed and his bosses, the mayor, the council, they say this is what we want, then that police chief keeps his mouth shut. He shouldn't be out there. He's not one of these chiefs they're talking about because he's not out there, giving press conferences against something that he doesn't believe in. He says, this is what he says. We shall follow all the laws of the state and of the nation. That's what he would say.
They're not doing interviews on 60 Minutes.
No, exactly right. Exactly right.
Just
another way that we present to you the media, the mainstream media, lying to you about Second Amendment and all things firearms.
The lying liars and the lies they tell.
Yep, exactly right. What he said. What
that guy said. Let's talk about another lying liar and cops, because we all know, by the way, the cops are firearms experts, right? Which is why Alec Baldwin has basically said in a statement that he believes that if there are live firearms on any set, in any movie or show, that there should be law enforcement, there should be police there in order to make sure that all firearms laws and safety is being adhered to. Now, Mike, we all know that if you carry a badge, you are a firearms expert, correct?
Absolutely not. In fact, I bet you it's last time I looked at these numbers and training numbers, it's less than 20% of the law enforcement officers that actually pull their firearms out of their holsters to do any sort of training besides the minimum annual training requirements. Craig, what I think this might be is some sort of a jobs program that Alec Baldwin has come up with, because we have all these cops that have lost their jobs now that agencies have been defunded. He's trying to give back to the law enforcement community and get them jobs on movie sets. I think that's what this is.
No.
It's the Alec Baldwin police law.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced to that one. But once again, it's like, dude, how often are you going to demonstrate your ignorance about firearms? You had an expert on set.
Think about it, Craig. He can't say anything else. He can't say we should have safety training, we should have NRA, we should have this, because he's already destroyed that bridge. All right, that's gone.
He ignored the safety expert, because she's already come out and said, look, we trained these guys a number of different times, and we talked a lot about firearm safety, and everybody was told, don't ever, ever, ever point a firearm at anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, if anything, and this is what I think you should have happen, because I've seen this on movie sets, and folks, I've told you about this. I've worked on TV and movie before, behind doing the firearm stuff, not like the Craig with the face. You know, I was a knowledge guy, and with firearms, Craig, when you go to work as an actor, there's a scale set, right, for a minimum that each actor gets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think for the firearms industry, for those that are in the prop master department, you know, dealing with firearms, that should be set as a minimum money you're going to make, and you have to be certified by whatever it is, SAG, somebody else like that, and the state. And once you get that certification, you work there on the set, because what happens is that the price that you get for working on the set is negotiable. All right. So you might get $5,000 for a day, or you might get, $10,000 for a month, or whatever it is. But if you make that and it's signed, like, again, through SAG or something like that, it's you get a minimum standard, you get a minimum pay for that, then you don't have to worry about. And of course, you have your certifications, because we have this in Florida. You have to be certified with certain firearm standards to work on these movie sets. Now, the pay's not there. So why do I say the pay? Because the guy who's going to make $5,000 for his home time there is easily intimidated by the $10 million guy, by the Alec Baldwin kind of thing. But if he's set in stone through the union or whatever in what he's going to make, then there's a little more forcefulness when it's time to talk safety. No, Mr. $10 million man, you're going to listen to me. Otherwise, I'm shutting the set down, as opposed to being threatened by the millionaire and saying, well, you'll never work in this business again. And then the guy who's got the certification can go, hey, dude, screw you. I got my card and I'm certified to do this. I'm here as the end all be all for safety.
Right. And you make it so that if there are firearms on the set and they walk off the set, everything is shut down.
Exactly right.
No one is allowed to touch, handle, or anything the firearms without their permission.
Correct. Correct.
And you don't even have to necessarily be someone who makes a bunch of money. You can just simply be the individual that can shut it down so that they lose a lot of money.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to have, when your job is safety, it really doesn't matter who you're dealing with. Your job is to protect them, even if it means protecting them from themselves. And I think in this case,
look at any major corporation, Craig. Like, I mean, it could be Walmart, it could be any place else. You got the guys who make the $1 million, right?
Right.
But the safety officials, no matter where they are in the hierarchy of that company, safety reports directly to the CEO.
Yep.
Okay. Because they know that people can be bullied and pushed around.
Right.
And be threatened. Safety has to report directly to the CEO, whether that's the production company or whatever it happens to be. You could tell me who the CEO is. I don't know if it's going to be a Michael Eisner or somebody like that, but they have got to be able to report over everybody at that set and the ability to shut it down.
Now, the one thing I will say is this: is it is likely going to be the boss is going to be the executive producer. And Alec Baldwin happened to be one of the executive producers.
Which I think it's got to be somebody off the set. They have to report to the studio or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, in this particular case, once again, I wanted to demonstrate that Alec Baldwin is an idiot. We already know he's an idiot. And at first people were like, "Oh, well, by not saying anything, he's making a big mistake, big mistake." But I'm like, every time he opens his mouth, he says something even more stupid. And this one is no different.
Yep. And that's really all he had to go with. Because like we said, he had nowhere else to turn to say for safety, because he'd already destroyed those bridges. So yeah, this guy's a moron. Listen, absolute moron. He wouldn't call the police before in New York when he was when he was a suspect of a crime. We saw what he did with his daughters and everything else like that. But he's already talked bad about New York City police multiple times. But now all of a sudden, they're his savior.
Funny how that happens, huh?
Yep.
Okay, moving right along, we're going to go to the White House. And it seems to be kind of a common theme with this White House, where they're constantly backtracking on stuff. They say one thing and then they turn around and they say another. Well, first of all, we all know that the Department of the Department of Energy Secretary laughed when she was asked about oil prices and what the United States is going to do, or what the White House is going to do in order to increase domestic production. She laughed and she was like, well, it's an international thing, and there's this cartel known as OPEC that controls the price. Completely and utterly ignoring the fact that that on the first day in office, the President Biden, basically through executive fiat, ended the Keystone Pipeline. He also, at the same time, pulled all of the leases for oil production on federal lands, taking us from the first time ever being net. For the first time under Trump, in decades, we were a net oil exporter as opposed to a net oil importer. We were energy independent, right? So now, on top of that, there's a pipeline that is it goes from Western Canada into the United States. And this is a pipeline that a lot of oil for the United States comes in from Canada. And they were considering, or they are studying, the idea of shutting down this pipeline. When asked, the White House first said, no, that's a lie. We are not interested in closing it down. And then the reporter basically said, no, I didn't say you were interested. I said you were studying closing down this pipeline. They're like, oh yeah, well, okay. Yeah, we're studying closing down another pipeline, another way for the United States, for American citizens to be able to access oil and natural gas, because we're because we don't really care about the price of oil and the price of gas in these United States.
Yeah, the Michigan pipeline. It's one of two, right? It's the one that's left. And here's the important things to remember. At least where I am, gas was $1.79 a gallon before the election, and now it's in the 320s. So if you're willing to pay to almost double for the price of gas just for the first pipeline to go down,
it was under $3 a gallon, about $2.79, $2.80 before Biden took over. Now it's up to $4.60 a gallon in California.
Yeah, so you're double there also. Yeah, it's you just pay a lot more state tax than we do. So
well, yeah,
got to fund those Newsom trips. Like where's that guy been the last week? By the way, another little interesting story. Maybe we'll get to.
Honestly, I think because it happened, he disappeared right after he got his booster. Yeah. I think he's having a bad reaction to the booster.
How come that's not on the news?
Well, it's not. And there are a lot of people talking about we don't know where he is. Yeah. Now, I think if they really wanted to know, if the media really wanted to know where he was, we would know.
Yes.
But he's disappeared. He's been incognito for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
By the way, the guy who, we have emergency. He has Emergency Powers Act here in California because for 20 months we've been under an emergency orders. So right. The guy with the emergency orders, the emergency powers, has disappeared.
Yeah, right. Isn't that great? Yep. He's a great guy. But anyway, back to the White House. Yeah, this is just, again, nobody knows what's going on up there. The more and more stories we see that Biden's running around in the middle of the night with dementia, pooping on himself at 3 a.m, yelling at anybody that he could find. Just literally an old man with dementia running through the White House, and it's sad. And they follow him around during the day with a suit full of medication and injections to try and get some good sound bites out of him. Watch any speech. Just watch any speech. Don't even watch the ones that have been edited. Just when they say the president's going to be on, or he's going to be doing a regular press conference, watch him and make your own mind up. The guy's
he doesn't do press conferences.
Who knows who's handling him?
He does presentations. He doesn't do press conferences.
Correct.
He'll get up, he gives a speech, and he's not allowed to actually answer questions.
And he says that. Well, they told me I'm not allowed to answer questions. What? Okay.
Are you not president of the United States? Look, when you're president of the United States, the only person you can say is the boss of you is your spouse.
Yeah. It's like when you got little kids, right? And you give your child, you gave her a chocolate cake for dinner, right? And mom comes home and says, "Did you eat dinner?" And the kid says, "Yeah." "Well, what'd you eat?" "Daddy said not to say we had chocolate cake." That's what Joe Biden sounds like when he says, "They told me I couldn't answer questions." And they're "What? You weren't supposed to say that. You weren't."
Yeah. And that's what we're dealing with there in the White House. But once again, folks, just so you understand one of the reasons why prices are so high is because energy prices are so high. And energy prices, and they want to say it's an international problem. It's an international thing. It is an international thing that we caused.
Yeah.
When we stopped producing oil, it opened up the door for OPEC to say, well, we're going to restrict the amount of oil that we put out there so that they can get more money per gallon. Because guess what? There's less supply. So,
right.
yeah, it's an international problem that let me clarify, that Joe Biden caused.
How do you think Trump got all of those nations to the table? Because he took money out of their pockets by making ourselves, oil independent of them. That's why he made us oil independent early in his administration. Late in his administration, when they realized it wasn't a fluke, they started to sit down and negotiate peace with anyone that would talk to them. Because more peace
all of a sudden, hey, look,
customers for oil.
If you guys slow down the oil production, we'll recognize Israel.
Yep, yeah, exactly right. And then you know what they did? Sold oil to Israel because they made more friends.
Right.
Funny
how that stuff works.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, moving right along. For those of you who have not heard, Remington is moving out of New York. Now, I'm wondering what took them so long to decide to leave New York. But they're leaving New York, and Mikey, what state are they going to?
They're going to see the Atlanta Braves play baseball in Georgia, baby.
Georgia on my mind. Yes, they're going to Georgia.
Yep. I'm sorry about that, Stacey Abrams. Does that ruin your plans again? I mean,
I know.
Maybe they'll have nothing but white people working there, and you can have that as a tool. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: if they have one white person working there, then they can officially be deemed as being racist.
That's right. Exactly right. Racist company. I think the reason Remington took so long is because Remington really took a hard hit during the last couple of Obama years with the reorganization. There was some with the was it the Cerberus group? Remington actually had a really bad downfall. They built themselves back up recently to the point where they are a profitable company, and so now they're deciding one way to get actual profits is to leave the state of New York, where half of what we make goes towards state income taxes. So let's go to Georgia, where they'll let us keep all of our money.
Nope, and that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of businesses are doing it, conservative and liberal, like Tesla. Tesla's doing. I mean, a bunch of industries, a bunch of businesses are moving out of places like California, out of places like New York, because it just doesn't make economic sense. And these states like, once again, like California and New York, they're getting worse before they're getting better.
Yep, and it just hurts everybody everywhere, because especially with an administration like we have now, if New York fails, and we know that they're failing, we've seen what de Blasio's done, we've seen what Cuomo's done, we know what Newsom's doing out in California. When they turn to the feds and ask for money, guess what the feds are going to do? They're going to give them money. So even though we're prospering down here in the state of Florida, it's still going to hurt us, because monies that we would have normally gotten for our DOT funds or Department of Energy funds are going elsewhere now to save failing economies.
We are so hyped. First of all, here in the state of California, we have been for almost a decade paying for a bullet train from I think it's like Barstow. No, it's from like Bakersfield to Fresno. Yeah. And we've spent billions of dollars on it. And now, guess what? Now the rest of the country gets to kick in on our bullet train from one part of the Central Valley to the other. You guys are going to love, first of all, there is absolutely nobody who's interested in going from Bakersfield to Fairfield. I mean, not Fairfield, to Fresno. But you all are going to get to kick in and help contribute billions of dollars to our bullet train from nowhere to nowhere.
Meanwhile, Brightline, which we have going on here in Florida, has now been approved in California to build a bullet train, and it's going to somewhere from somewhere else. That's good. They're building it from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Craig, that thing is going to be packed every day, going 150 miles an hour, because guess what? People that don't work in the government and they understand profits know where to build things for the money. And so you guys, and that's what already underway, already clearing it out there. They're starting to do. You guys are going to have, Craig, that train's going to be running in 2 years before they even decide what the hell they're doing with their Barstow to Fresno train.
And by the way, it'll be utilizing modern technology, not the antiquated. They're not even using the technology that they want to build this bullet train on. Is not even being used in the countries that they cite as examples of why we need to do this.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, it is what it is. And talking about ridiculous, I think our parting shot kind of fits that mold. I don't even know how to explain this one except to just put it up there and let folks
Do it.
do it. So, welcome to 2021, where the individual on the left is a brave woman and the woman on the right is a white supremacist.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, if you are born a man and you believe that you are actually a woman and that's how you choose to live your life, I don't think it's particularly brave. I just don't see you being you as being particularly brave. If you believe that's who you are, right? We can disagree, we can agree or disagree on transgenderism, yada, yada, yada. But if that's who you think you are, I don't consider that to be particularly brave. I especially, though, do have kind of an issue of, okay, how are you now going to say that this is the first female? Anyway, I won't even get into that. But then on top of it, you want to take a strong, intelligent black woman and you want to call her a white supremacist because she happens to be a Republican? And yes, they have. We talked about it yesterday where literally you've had some of the woke-tivists on the left call her a white supremacist.
Yep. Again, when you've lost the argument, call them a racist. That's just the way it goes. Then you're just a racist. You're just a racist.
I am beside myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, actually, I'm beside you right now. But
yeah.
I just don't know what there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about in the end times, and they say you'll call good evil and evil good. And I'm having a very, very, very hard time not applying that to what we're seeing today.
Yep. That's what's going on. Straighten up and fly right, folks. That's all I can say. Put down your wokeness and all that nonsense, and let's get back to business here.
Folks, let's just be real. All right. The woke-tivists aren't even a majority on the left. They are a small minority on the left. Yep. The only reason they have any power, the only reason they have any authority is because those of you on the left won't stand up against them. And those who are on our side, who are the moderates, who think that being more like you guys, being more like the left is the way in which to gain power again, yeah, you're the problem too. The fact is, let us common sense folk, let us stand up and say, no, we're not putting up with this anymore.
Exactly right.
I'm not telling y'all to become Republicans, but I'm saying take your party back, please.
Right, yeah.
Take your party back, please.
Yeah.
I would rather us spend our time like we used to disagreeing on how much we should have to pay in taxes. Stuff like this, stuff like, giving money to people who've illegally entered our country and saying now we're going to give them tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars because they illegally entered our country. That we're going to argue about that? Someone who says, I love America and I believe in the fundamental rights is now, as a woman of color, is now a white supremacist?
That's what you get, right? That's what you get. You go woke, you get broke. And right now we're getting mentally broke. That's what's going on.
Our nation is being broken by these folks.
Yep.
All right. Well, okay, Mikey, before we go, let's make sure we give a shout out to our sponsors.
Our good friends over at Grid Defense, Guerrilla Machining, and the California Republican Assembly. The contacts are down there in the links. Please support Grid and Guerrilla with your dollars. And you know what? California Republican Assembly could use a donation or two also, because it ain't easy fighting wokeness for free.
No, it is most definitely not easy, and especially since we are probably going to be putting out I don't want to call it a bounty, a reward to find Gavin Newsom. See if we can find him. But actually, right now, the website is in the process of being rebuilt. It is I don't know if it's back up yet, but yeah, we dealing with some stuff. We try to make it look all good for those of you out of staters who want to come visit our website. So if you go there and you get a funky message, that's the reason why. But yes, most definitely, we definitely need the support of all the individuals we can. California is the front line. Every crazy, whacked out leftist idea that you guys are dealing with in your states probably originated in California. So let's stop the ideas. Let's stop the wokeness before it leaves the Golden State. Just saying. Help
There
us
you go.
out.
There you go. And the webpage is back up for California.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for today's episode. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We also appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing, and encouraging your friends to do the same.
Have some good tacos tonight, folks.